This Faith and Finance podcast is underwritten in part by Timothy Plan. Timothy Plan embraces biblically responsible investing. For more than 30 years, financial advisors and shareholders have looked to Timothy Plan for pro-life and pro-family investment options. Learn more at timothyplan.com. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. Luke 6:38. I am Rob West. Jesus' words in the Sermon on the Plain are a reminder that we should look for ways to be generous with all aspects of our finances, including investments. Brian Mumbert is here today to share some helpful ideas. Then it's on to your calls at 800-525-7000. That's 800-525-7000. This is Faith and Finance, biblical wisdom for your financial decisions. Well, it's always a pleasure to have Brian Mumbert with us. He's Vice President for Regional Sales at Timothy Plan, a pioneer in faith-based investing. They're also an underwriter of this program. Brian, great to have you back.
Rob, great to be here. Thank you.
Brian, we're talking about tithing on your gains, but before we start, could we dispel the notion that investors have to give up performance with faith-based investments?
Certainly, Rob. You know, this notion is something that dates back to the early days of faith-based investing. As one of the founders of faith-based investing in 1994, there were a lot of headwinds and limited resources that we had when we started this. But you fast forward 30 years, you have proven fund management, solid fundamentals to go along with all of the screening, and you can see very competitive performance with us and others in the marketplace now.
There's no doubt about that. We have come a long way, and it's an exciting space to see all of the compelling products. And as you said, the opportunity to get great risk-adjusted returns and intersect well with your values. So I appreciate you clearing that up.
Absolutely.
All right. We've been getting some questions about tithing off of investment gains, and I'm glad you're going to weigh in on this. Why is that important, and how does Timothy Plan encourage investors to tithe off their mutual fund gains?
Well, honestly, Rob, the sad reality here is that the typical American earning over $150,000 annually only gives away about 1.7% of what they make, and Christians aren't a whole lot better. We only do about 2.5% of our income on average. But in Luke chapter 12, Jesus tells us to store up treasures in heaven, where decay and theft cannot destroy. And in 2 Corinthians, we see that the earth is not our home. We are stewards of all that God has entrusted to us. And we should not hold money in a closed hand, but with an open hand to help those that are in need.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I know Timothy Plan tithes off the revenue it receives from mutual funds. Why did you all make that decision?
We needed to find a way to be obedient stewards of what God has entrusted us as a company. And at the heart of our mission, if we cannot have an impact on the other side of the screens through crisis pregnancy centers or promoting faith-based movies and media or helping develop biblical entrepreneurs in underprivileged cities across America and the world, then we're honestly failing in our mission of being a true faith-based investment. And so we give away much more than just the 10%, as we feel compelled to really make an impact in the kingdom in more ways than just making money for our investors.
Yeah, I mean, what does that look like? How do you determine the ministries or causes that you give to?
Honestly, what we like to do is look at the other side of the screen. So, you know, we're a pro-life, pro-family mutual fund and ETF company. And so what's on the other side of the abortion screen? Well, it's crisis pregnancy centers. You know, what's on the other side of anti-family entertainment? Well, it's groups like Movie Guide that are advocating for family-friendly films in Hollywood right now. And so, yes, we like to take a look at the other side of the screen and make an impact locally here in Orlando, Florida, where we're based, but also broadly across America and even the world.
Oh, yeah, that's great. So for those investors who are wondering what it looks like to give or even tithe off of their investment gains, what principles or ideas might you share with them?
I'd encourage everyone, as always, to seek the scriptures. We know the Bible speaks more about money than any other topic in scripture. And as stewards, God owns it all. And I really like what it says in Psalm 24. It says, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. It all belongs to God."
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Brian, you all have a number of investments that our listeners are taking advantage of. Anything new as we wrap up here today at Timothy Plan for 2025 that you want them to know about?
We're just excited with the growth of faith-based investing broadly through Timothy Plan and others. And as we move on into a new season here in the country and a new president, and we're looking forward to the impact that faith-based investing can have throughout this country.
Well said. We're going to have to leave it there for today. Brian, thanks for stopping by.
Rob, thank you for having me.
That's Brian Mumbert, Vice President for Regional Sales at Timothy Plan, a leader and pioneer in faith-based investing. To learn more, go to timothyplan.com. That's timothyplan.com. Back with your calls after this, 800-525-7000. Stick around.
If you enjoy this radio program, you're going to love all of the many different resources waiting for you at faithfi.com and the FaithFi app. You'll find powerful wisdom, free podcasts, articles, videos, and more from leading voices such as Randy Alcorn, Howard Dayton, Ron Blue, and our own Rob West. Grow in wisdom and knowledge by connecting with a community of thousands of Christians striving to be good and faithful stewards at faithfi.com or by downloading the FaithFi app.
We're grateful for support from Timothy Plan. For more than 30 years, they've served clients on a biblically responsible journey to invest in a way that honors God and gives dignity to people's lives. More information is at timothyplan.com. The investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses are contained in the prospectus and summary prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Mutual funds distributed by Timothy Partners Ltd. and ETFs distributed by Foreside Fund Services LLC.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance. Well, it's almost time to take your calls and questions here in just a moment, but it's right now the best time to call to get in that queue. The number to call, 800-525-7000. Again, that's 800-525-7000. We'd love to hear from you today and tackle whatever is on your mind financially. Lines are open. We're ready for you. Again, that number, 800-525-7000. You can call right now. To Indiana, WGNR. Hi, Greg. Go ahead.
Yeah, Rob, it's just a couple different questions. One, when looking for a mortgage company, when buying a home, I would like to be able to put down at least half what I know to purchase another one in the future, because I actually have two homes to sell. I'm just going to have to stagger them, I know, one this year and then one later. But I didn't know if there's any key questions to ask mortgage companies or what to look for, definitely for interest rates to get it as low as possible.
Okay. Yeah. So you're looking to sell two properties and then you're going to take the proceeds and buy just one new property, or are you going to buy multiple?
We're just going to buy one property, and we're hoping to spend anywhere from $400 to $450, what we're seeing the price range around our area here. You know, like I said, we'd like to put like at least half down to get that payment down and go to a 15-year mortgage. But I don't know if any mortgage companies, there's any better questions to ask, what to look for.
Yeah, very good. Well, I like your plan a lot. I mean, I think the key is to start with, assuming you have good credit, I suspect you do, you're going to want to make sure, number one, you get a really competitive rate. Now, am I hearing, though, that when you sell the second property, eventually you will be free and clear, or do you plan to keep this mortgage in place even beyond the sale of the second home?
When we sell both homes, they will be completely paid off, and the additional proceeds will be going to purchasing another home. We'd like to have new, but we definitely do not have to. And we'd just like to take that money and spend the majority of it by putting a good share down on the new home. Yeah. Maybe have a little left over, especially if it's a existing home. Some need to be a little updated, and we're willing to do that if needed, but just want cash on hand to do it.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, so I would start with that interest rate, make sure you're getting a competitive offer. I think second is the range of loan types. Now, you probably are just going to take a conventional loan, but to the extent you wanted, you qualified for a VA loan or something like that, you'd want to make sure that they offer those. You're going to want to certainly look at the fees and closing costs. So what are those origination fees for processing the loan? Compare that with other charges like appraisal, credit report, underwriting fees. You want a lender that's upfront and transparent about all those fees. So you don't want any of that on the back end. You want them to be, provide you everything right up front. And then I would just do some reviews on their reputation. You could look at online reviews just to see, what are people saying about them in terms of their responsiveness, their pre-approval process, loan processing times, those kinds of things. I'd also make sure you get at least 3 bids, and I'd probably get one of them from our longtime underwriter here at Faith and Finance, Movement Mortgage at movement.com/faith. But they're all pretty standard. And again, you're not going to be with this for too long, and they're probably going to sell the servicing to someone else anyway. So the key is get those low costs, get that competitive rate, and you should be in good shape. Thanks for your call. Let's go to Miami, Florida. Josiah, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I have a small architecture business, and over the last 3.5 years that I've had the practice, my income has fluctuated a lot, and it's not really stable. And my financial advisor has advised that I put my small practice on the back burner because I need to get a consistent salary in order to meet my family's budget and pay down our debt. So I wanted to know if you had any advice for how to be transparent, respectful, basically how to communicate with a potential employer that, hey, I want to work and get a salary, but I also have this business on the side. Should I keep the business on the side?
Yeah, I think it's a great thought. And I think, being transparent is always a good idea because, in this day and age, not only do we need to be above reproach here in your, work and your conduct as a Christ follower, but I think, it's probably something that, your employer may stumble across. I think if it were me, I would appreciate somebody calling that to my attention. I think the big idea is that, and you would need to communicate this as long as you could do so with integrity, is that you would never do any work for your business on company time, and that you're not in a competing business, or that, your company doesn't have anything in the employment agreement that specifies that anything related to outside work. But assuming you're not on company time and you're not violating anything that you've agreed to with regarding your employment agreement, I think essentially what you're doing there is just bringing it to their attention. Again, I would appreciate that as, somebody who's really just trying to be transparent. I can't imagine they're going to have any problem with it. In this gig economy, people are more accustomed than ever to people having multiple sources of income, so long as you're giving, your employer everything they're due in terms of your time, your energy, your attention, and certainly you're not using company time or equipment for any of your other work. Hope that helps, Josiah. Thanks for your call. Let's take an email. These come into us all the time at AskRob@faithfi.com. I try to bring them into the broadcast periodically. Jill writes to us, is it better to continue putting the maximum amount toward my retirement? That's $200 a month for her going into an IRA, that my employer matches at 50%, or should we put that money toward paying off our debt? I would ask first, just is this a simple IRA? If so, the maximum contribution your employer can make is 3%. Now, if you said IRA and you meant 401k, then yeah, absolutely, your employer could match you up to 50% or even 100%. It's a tough question because you obviously want to pay down debt as quickly as possible to avoid interest. On the other hand, your employer's contributions are essentially free money. And if your employer is matching 50%, you can probably contribute enough to your 401k to come out ahead, even if you pay more interest on the debt. Because remember, we're putting money away now. We get that 50% bonus, 50% return on your money immediately guaranteed. You're not going to get that anywhere else. That's higher than the interest on the debt, no doubt. And we keep that money in the tax-deferred environment between now and your retirement years. With that said, I want to get you out of debt as soon as you can. So what I would do is not put $1 more than you're getting matched at 50% in the retirement plan. But as soon as you cap out that employer match, let's immediately go over to the debt and try to get that paid off, especially if that's high interest credit card debt. I would really go after that and attack it as best you can. So hopefully that helps you, Jill. We appreciate you writing to us at askrob@faithfi.com. Before we head to the break, let me remind you, if you listen to this program regularly, you're a part of the Faith and Finance family, and you want to help others learn God's way of handling money so they can be a faithful steward, well, we'd like to invite you to become a FaithFi partner. These folks are committed to living out biblical stewardship principles in their lives and share a desire to see others be good and faithful stewards as well. A gift of $35 a month or more allows you to become a FaithFi partner, where you'll receive exclusive quarterly ministry updates, an early release copy of each of our studies, and much more. Just go to faithfi.com and click Give. That's faithfi.com and click Give.
Are you looking for a financial professional who aligns with your biblical values? Certified Kingdom Advisors are trusted financial, legal, or accounting professionals who have completed a rigorous certification program to ensure they provide biblically wise financial advice as part of their practice. You can find a local CKA professional in your area by going to faithfi.com and clicking Find a CKA.
Faith and Finance is grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing. For more than 30 years, they've offered financial wisdom for living well. SMI provides step-by-step guidance for do-it-yourself investors, from those just getting started to those getting ready for retirement. More information, including a short video webinar on profit and peace of mind no matter what's happening in the market, is available at soundmindinvesting.org.
Thanks for joining us today on Faith and Finance. I'm Rob West. Here in our final segment today, we'll get to as many calls as we can. So let's head right back to the phones. Crown Point, Indiana. Hi, Rick. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm 12 months away from turning 59 and a half, which means I get, of course, take out of retirement with no penalty. And my wife and I each have a Roth IRA as well, and she's also over 55. So my question is, at that time, 12 months from now, would it make sense for me to make withdrawals from the 401k at $8,000 apiece to max out both IRAs? I don't plan on retiring next year. I plan on working for another 4 or 5 years. So if I did that for 5 years, that's another $80,000 into the Roth IRA. Does that make sense?
It could. The real benefit from the Roth comes, by you putting the money in a lot earlier, so you get the benefit of the tax-free growth. The question is whether or not it makes sense for you to go ahead and pay the tax now or in the future. And that a lot of that has to do with two things. What are tax rates, the marginal tax rates, which looks like they're either staying the same or going down, at least in the near term. And then second, what is your income? Now, are you talking about doing this after 59 and a half, but while you're still working?
Yes.
Yeah. See, that typically doesn't work because you're at probably the peak of your earnings throughout your working life, which means you're paying more tax than ever. And so for you to pile on top of the income you already have, the taxes that would have to be paid on the withdrawals that you make from that 401k, are probably going to push some portion of that up into a higher tax bracket. And, you technically don't have to take withdrawals and then fund the Roth, which is going to be subject to that contribution limit. You could roll it out, to an IRA once you separate from employment down the road, and then convert it to a Roth, and you can do as much of that as you want. Doesn't have to be under the annual limit. But if you're wanting to do it as a contribution, then you could employ the strategy you're describing. I'm just not seeing the benefit for the reasons I mentioned. Even though we're in a fairly low tax environment, I think you piling these withdrawals on top of your existing income and then paying tax on it, probably in a higher bracket, just doesn't make some sense for the benefit you're going to get, because you don't have as much time for this money to grow. And really the only benefit is if we have much higher taxes in the future, that could be one benefit. The other benefit is you don't have the required minimum with the Roth. But other than that, I kind of like this money just staying in the traditional IRA and then you just pulling it out in retirement when you need it. But give me your thoughts on all that.
No, that makes sense. And I just stopped contributing through cash a couple years ago because I felt like I had enough where I'm saving now cash. I have 2 daughters in their 20s. I expect 2 weddings in the near future. So that's why I've not been putting it into the Roth. So I was trying to find a way to continue to get into the Roth without using cash.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and I just don't think you pulling out of that traditional 401k, even though you're not paying the penalty, you're going to pay the tax on it, but it's going to be put on top. So, because we're in a progressive tax environment, as you make more income, you pay more tax. And if any portion of that gets pushed into a higher bracket, you're going to be paying even more tax than you are on just your regular W-2 income. And I'm just not sure you get enough benefit for that. So I think I'd probably just let this 401k ride. And perhaps when you get on the other side of the weddings, then you could resume your Roth contributions when you have some more disposable income.
That makes sense. Thank you. Just one more. You mentioned something about rolling over. Is that after retirement? When I'm done working, I roll over into a Roth?
Well, you don't have to be done working. You just have to separate from employment from this current employer. So the 401k with your current employer, if you were to move to another employer or retire, in either case, you'd separate from employment. And at that point, that 401k would be eligible to roll to a traditional IRA. And that IRA could stay in that pre-tax environment, or it could be converted to a Roth. And whatever portion you convert would be taxable as federal income tax, in the year of the conversion.
Got it. Thank you for taking my call.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Take care. To St. Louis. Hi, Michael. Go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener.
Great.
So I had
Excellent.
a question about finding mortgage rates. So I looked at bankrate.com, and I only had one mortgage company that popped back out to me. So I was looking for others. I checked the website of the mortgage company you guys have been talking about with the charitable background. But I didn't, on their website, I didn't find anything for St. Louis. And so I was looking for resources for more options to try and find a quality mortgage lender. And then also, narrowing it down to 3 based on points and the rates, about trying to get a quality answer on what their interest rate would be without them pulling a hard credit. And, I got multiple hard credit pulls, and then it's going to affect my credit score and then possibly affect my rate.
Okay. Did you say that's already happened where the hard inquiries?
No, it hasn't happened. No, it hasn't happened. I just want to make sure what to say to them to keep that from happening.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah. I mean, you would have to give them permission to pull your credit for the purpose of evaluating, whether or not they would extend you a loan and what the terms are. And you would have to authorize that. So, I think you can basically do some initial fact finding just based on what you might share with them as your credit score. Now, eventually they're going to need to pull a lender's report, which has a different score and a different scoring algorithm, and they're going to use that for their ultimate determination. But just as you're checking around, you can absolutely, avoid having them pull the report until you nail down perhaps the 2 or 3 lenders you want to receive good faith estimates from. In terms of, the period in which you do that, all the hard inquiries you authorize within a 2-week window are considered one by most credit scoring algorithms. So I wouldn't worry about that, but I would kind of do your homework and be ready, to proceed. Let's say you pick 3, I'd probably do that in a fairly short window of time. I will say Movement Mortgage, who is the underwriter here, and we have a lot of faith in, does work in all 50 states, including Missouri. And so that would be one you could check with movement.com/faith, and they could give you a call back and give you all the details. But I think you're on the right track here. Definitely, this is often the biggest transaction most of us will have, and therefore you should get 2 or 3 bids.
Right. Is anybody else besides Bankrate that would have the mortgage rates?
You could go to Lending Tree or one of those online that would do a search for you and kind of look at all the low-cost providers in the space. But I would make sure you go with somebody who's reputable, which is why we recommend Movement, because there's a lot more to it than just the rate and the term in terms of getting you from the initial inquiry all the way through the closing table. But certainly worth checking and having some things to compare it to, and I think that's where some of these online tools can be really helpful. I'd probably check Lending Tree in addition to Bankrate.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the program today. Lord bless you. Hey, thanks for being along with us today, folks. Remember, we want God to be your ultimate treasure and money a tool to accomplish his purposes. On behalf of my team today, Jim Henry, Devin Patrick, and Robert Youngblood, I'm Rob West. We're so thankful you were with us today. Come back and join us tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Faith and Finance is provided by FaithFi and listeners like you.